A concerning injury update heading into the Rams' most important game of the year so far. We got keys to a Rams victory. And what did Cooper Kupp say about facing the Rams? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you want to support every single episode. Drop a like, drop a comment down below. Podcast listeners, write us a review. We'll read on the show. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleach Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, what are the keys to beating the Seattle Seahawks? We've got the injury report that you need to know about. Also, Cooper Kupp talking Rams. You won't want to miss what he had to say. Matthew Stafford on Aaron Donald's podcast, what he had to say. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Travis. Of course, we like to get with the fun stuff. It's not always about nitty-gritty X's and O's and the keys, because don't worry, we can get in our bag. We can get in the weeds with that kind of stuff too. But I did watch Aaron Donald's podcast with Matthew Stafford, and definitely some good stuff in that one. I think some of the best takeaways were he was talking about how the TV timeouts when Matthew Stafford is there just waiting, and Sean McVay will not stop talking during the TV timeouts. He's like, if this guy is just continue to talk, continue to coach up, and the frustration for him is he can't talk back during those TV timeouts. Just like, hey, man, Sean, all right, we're good. Yeah. Other thing that was interesting, too, is Stafford revealed that the guys in the strength room, they set an over-under on his longest run of the season, which just goes down by a yard every year, he said. So some fun stuff on that pod. I don't know.
I do like listening to first of all, I think Aaron Donald is from whatever planet Shohei Ohtani is from, right? Like those guys are they're just different, the stuff that they're able to do. So I like Matthew Stafford has a ton of personality. It's really fun to see him do those sorts of things because he's funny. He tells really good stories. The McVay stuff you're talking about, it's like he's still going. He's pointing it and saying he's still going. He's still going. I absolutely love Stafford, and it does feel like he's kind of reached that point where he's doing the pods, he's telling the jokes, he's telling the stories, and he's playing at an MVP level. I think this is kind of like his moment where all of this stuff has come together, where his experience, his ability, his coach, his teammates, his city, all of these things are exactly where he wants them. And I think he knows he's in a pretty great spot.
This is a complete aside. I did my list of top 10 LA sports athletes, most famous, best ones. I elevated Stafford all the way up to 4. I think it could be 3, right? I think it's Shohei kind of is in his own tier. I think Luka has passed LeBron. I think LeBron is 3rd just because he's LeBron still. I think Stafford is 4. I think he's ahead of Mookie. I think he's ahead of Freddie Freeman. He's 37, and my man is on MVP trajectory, and he plays the glamour position, quarterback, for the NFL franchise. So the reason I kind of went there is because, like you're starting to see him kind of open up and, like, embrace this. And I think a part of that is just because of how well he's playing and just kind of realizing this the star power he's always kind of had.
I couldn't agree more. I think part of it is that he's been here long enough now is that it doesn't feel like he's just like, oh, dude, I'm just going to drop in and try to grab one real quick and dip and get out of here and go back to where, Georgia or Detroit or wherever and go live the rest of his life, go do TV. He feels like he's a part of the LA fabric. He feels like he's been here long enough and been successful enough. And like you just said, making this MVP run, maybe another Super Bowl run. Before it was like, it felt like a Detroit Lion was here playing quarterback for the Rams, who may or may not be here a long time. That's not what it feels like anymore. It feels like an LA Ram quarterback who's operating at the top of his powers, going for that second World Series title. And I think the relationship with Kershaw helps that as well, just that those two guys are as tight as they are. The fact that he wears his Dodger hat everywhere that he goes, it's like he has done an incredibly good job of integrating himself into the fabric of this, the athletic fabric of this city. And you're right. I think he's on that same tier with those other guys you mentioned, for sure.
You beat me to it. I was just going to mention him wearing the Dodger hat.
Oh, yeah.
Kershaw wearing the Rams hat. And also he wears Freddie Freeman's veneers too, which is kind of cool.
Well, those are a select few. Like the guy's got to go way into the back of the closet at the veneer shop to find the Freddie Freemans. Those are exclusive.
The Stanley Ipkiss model. You got to love it, right? Now, this is a good transition because speaking of players and stars that were a part of the LA fabric, Cooper Kupp is back.
Yeah.
We've talked about it all week, but now Cooper Kupp is starting to open up a little bit about playing the Rams, and he was asked about just being at SoFi Stadium, coming back to this stadium to play this organization that he had all of his success with, and he said, "It's not like I died. I didn't die." And I thought that was pretty funny. I mean, but it's like, I also think too, it's like that was his way of downplaying something that I think is, it's weird. I think this means more to Cooper Kupp than it means to the Rams.
I couldn't agree more. Yes. Look, this is one of those things. And when there's a breakup, somebody wins and somebody loses, right? They're just nobody is always like, okay, great, that was awesome. Let's just go our separate ways. And everybody feels great about it moving forward. There's a winner and there's a loser in these things. And so far, the winner has been the Rams. They broke up with Cooper Kupp and went out and got Davante Adams to take his spot. Davante Adams leads the NFL in TD receptions. Davante Adams has been extraordinary, especially of late. So the Rams really didn't miss a beat. Now the Seahawks are really good. We're 7-2 as well, but Kupp has not had the impact on the Seahawks the way that Adams has. And we'll see what happens moving forward. If he comes in here, catches a touchdown, has a big day, the Seahawks find a way to beat the Rams in LA, then maybe that pendulum swings back the other way. But right now, the Rams made the right decision. They went and got somebody else who has impacted the team in a very positive way. And he has not had that monster year that I'm sure he was hoping he would have up in Seattle.
Yeah, he hasn't had that monster year. I mean, he does a lot of things for them that don't show up on the stat sheet, like allowing Jackson Smith and Jigba to do most of his work on the outside, which has been massive. I mean, average almost 20 yards per reception on the outside is just killer for that offense. He's been so explosive. But I do think that if you're Cooper Kupp, he's been circling this game. He's saying, he wants to do everything to try to beat the Rams. Puka Nacua is saying that I'm going to fight Rams players after the game to get Cooper Kupp's jersey. So he's showing him a lot of love. It's funny you make the analogy of the girlfriend stuff, because we had a commenter, I want to give him credit for, his name's StreetBat123, and he said, Kupp is the ex we still love, but we have a super smoking hot new girlfriend in Davante Adams. So first of all, chill. Okay, super hot. You just say we have a new girlfriend, but super hot new girlfriend.
Look, I'll be honest. I'm kind of with him. I kind of feel where he's coming from.
Adams, you're a smoke show.
Yeah. He's pretty good. He scores a lot of touchdowns, and if we're just translating that into other metrics, I think he's onto something.
Hey, he's been great, and he's continued to be great. I know it. Now, as far as the injury report, that's something that is becoming a little bit of a storyline heading into this one, because the Rams, they had their practice yesterday on Thursday. There were some upgrades to players on the injury reports, but Kobe Turner remains sidelined with a back injury, and he could be in danger of missing Sunday's game against the Seattle Seahawks. So that is a major development, because I think one of the ways that you defend Jackson Smith-Njigba is leaning on your strengths and getting to the quarterback and hoping that Sam Darnold sees ghosts. So that's definitely a major storyline late into this week leading up to this game.
It is. And Kobe Turner is having a great season. In fact, we were talking about this on my radio show yesterday on 710 ESPN, and my partner and co-host, DeMarco Farr, said that he would choose Kobe Turner as the MVP of this team so far this season. Like that's how important Kobe Turner has been to what they're doing. Now, I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think it does speak to the impact that he's had. Now, the good news is Poona Ford is going to play. Poona Ford is there as well. He does a lot of the same things and is able to impact the field in a similar way that Turner is. The other name, and Doug, you and I have mentioned his name here and there, but Tyler Davis has been really good for the Rams this year. Like, I know he doesn't play a ton of snaps the way that Turner does, but he has impacted the team. He's had a couple of sacks along the way. So the good news is the Rams are not a one-man band. It's not like, it's not like Aaron Donald and just if he doesn't do it, then no one else is going to do it. Verse is going to be there. Young is going to be there. Fisk is going to be there. Poona Ford's going to be there. Tyler Davis can step in. Laurel Murchison can step in. They really do have a lot of depth along that defensive front. So, well, don't get me wrong, Turner being out is a big deal. They do have depth at that position that can at least try to mitigate some of his absence.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the impressive things where you don't necessarily say, oh, Tyler Davis is future All-Pro, Pro Bowl level star or anything like that, but they've really raised the floor and increased the quality, and the depth has been there on the defensive line. So a guy like Tyler Davis, who was him and Braden Fisk collapsing that pocket that led to that Mac Jones throw that Forbes intercepted, he definitely has had his fingerprints on the season. They're going to need guys like him to step up if Kobe Turner has to miss this game. But I know I'm definitely jinxing this team, but they have been the luckiest team as far as injuries this year. If you look at True Media, you got Kyer Thomas, Akella Witherspoon, Tutu Atwell. They missed a combined total of 18 games. And guys on the IR, that's the least amount of games in the NFL. And that definitely is a big reason why you're 7-2. The second closest is the Raiders with 27 games. Ever met Chris Berman, by the way?
I have. Chris is a nice guy.
Man, that's like a true legend right there.
Absolutely. No, you're right about the injury bug. You got to get lucky, right? You got to get lucky. You got to be really good. You got to be well coached. You got to have good players. You got to be tough and all this stuff. And there's this much of the equation that comes to luck, and most of that luck comes down to injuries to key guys at the right time or lack thereof. And so far, the Rams have been very, very lucky when it comes to that, and they've taken advantage of that good luck.
And the best thing, too, is Devonta Adams, who had the oblique injury, and he let the game. He's expected to go. But coming up next, we got the most important thing the Rams need to do to win on Sunday. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
This episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Prize Picks. So you, me, we make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement of this season. So whether you're following the NFL, like we like to talk around here, the NBA, which is a great way to do it, or both, there's no better way to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried Prize Picks yet, it is the simplest way to play. All you do is you pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. How easy is that? It takes less than 60 seconds to put in your lineup, and you can play anywhere that Prize Picks operates, including right here in California and a lot of other places as well. And the new Stacks feature, game changer. You can now pick more on Luka's points, on Luka's threes, on Luka's assists, all in the same lineup, and you can only do that at Prize Picks. So download that Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis, here in our second segment, getting to some of these keys to winning on Sunday. And, of course, the big names for the Seahawks, Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Smith-Njigba leads the lead in receiving yards. He's been an absolute monster this season. And yesterday on the crossover episode with the great Corbin Smith, my man. By the way, Travis, this guy was bold. Behind him during the entire episode, he had a Toronto Blue Jays hat. So we're talking about a dude who in Seattle, they just beat the Mariners. So he has to live with that. And I'm sure they weren't happy about that. Now the Dodgers fans get to see that Blue Jays hat. I mean, at least that's a lot of courage right there.
I was going to say Corbin's got some backbone, shall we say? He's going in there. Yeah, look, I mean, talking to you, talking to the Dodger fans here in LA, that's a bold choice.
Bold choice for sure. But the most important thing is that his Seahawks lose on Sunday. And one thing I was asking about, I was like, hey, how do you stop Jackson Smith and Jigba? And he said, well, you really can't stop Jackson Smith and Jigba. But one thing I was kind of pointing out to him was, look, you look at the way the defenses have played the Seahawks this year, and they've stacked the box to try to stop the run, and they've done that with a lot of success. The Seahawks have the fourth worst yards per carry at 3.8, but they have the second most rush attempts. So I was like, what happens when a team says, we're not going to try to necessarily stack the box. We're going to see some more nickel and dime to try to stop Jackson Smith and Jigba. And he's like, yeah, a team really hasn't tried that. I'm like, that could be a way to try to neutralize him because this is the most efficient passing offense as well. They have the least amount of pass attempts in the NFL too. So that's kind of going to be the ultimate puzzle piece for Chris Shula because both teams don't like to blitz on defense to the lowest in the league. And it's going to be a tall task for Emmanuel Forbes, Kobe Durant and company, the outside guys. But that's really where the game's going to come down to, I think, trying to slow down the best player for the Seahawks, which is Smith and Jigba. And also, too, the Rashid Shaheed guy, really, we'll see if he stretches the field, and they got some packages for him.
Yeah, the JSN problem is solved by beating the snot out of Sam Darnold, right? Like, because I agree with Corbin and what he said. Like, you're not stopping that guy. That guy, he's there. There are some guys in this league that are uncoverable. Devontae Adams is one of those guys, right? You're not going to cover, guys that are that elite. And I think that JSN is, if he's not there already, he's certainly trending in that direction. What you do, though, is you make Sam Darnold look like he looked when he played for the Vikings last year at SoFi Stadium, and they just tore his head off. You make him look like Sam Darnold looked in Tempe or Glendale or wherever the Cardinals play in the playoff game last year, where they sacked him 9 times. One of my favorite things is that got so ugly with Darnold last year in Minnesota that the Vikings play-by-play guy during the broadcast is yelling, "Throw the ball already!" Right? I mean, it was an incredible moment that Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold will do Sam Darnold-like things if you put pressure on him. The Rams, like we've talked about, are incredibly good at getting pressure on quarterbacks. So that's the way you deal with JSN, is by making Sam Darnold be the guy that has to make decisions very quickly in the face of a lot of pressure. And I'm not so sure he can do that. You just said they don't throw a ton of passes. I think we know why. Even last week when they beat the tar out of Arizona, he fumbled twice and he threw a pick. Right? Like he wants to give you some. I think that these two teams are incredibly similar in a lot of different ways, but the great differentiator is the fact that the Rams have a quarterback that can make stuff happen off schedule, that can make stuff happen just because there's nothing you can throw at him. He's not scared. He's not confused. He's not any of those things. I don't know if you could say the same about Darnold.
Yeah, and I think another thing to look at as far as how well the Rams are defending Sam Darnold is this year, on passes of more than 10 yards, he's completing those passes at a 71.1% clip. Like, that is ridiculous. That is, when you look at league averages well below that, that is a way to kind of register how well you're playing against Sam Darnold. Because Sam Darnold, back-to-back really good years. Last year wasn't a fluke. But there's always been some high variance in his game, right? Like, who is the real Sam Darnold? And I will say, too, just kind of as an aside, doesn't he feel like the most, like, non-USC quarterback that's like ever been there? Like, you know what I mean? Just kind of the way he carries himself, Santa Clemente's own, Dana Point's own. I know he doesn't feel like a USC. I'm not trying to say anything about USC quarterbacks, right? I guess I kind of am. I don't know.
Are you sure? Yeah, I feel like you are trying to say something about it.
I guess, I'm going to edit that out, but like, he really just feels like, he's just a dude who just like, he kind of got this like blue collar kind of mindset.
I think you're right. I actually agree with what you're saying. I'm going to use a word. He's less of a pretty boy than most of the SC quarterbacks. He's far more rugged. He's far more just kind of bruising along the way. Like Matt Leinart feels like a USC quarterback. Matt Leinart was awesome, by the way, at SC, but that's what it. Mark Sanchez, hey, what's up, dude? Yeah, I mean, he's going through some stuff right now, but he felt like an SC quarterback. Sam Darnold is a rugged, guy that's out there. He can move a little bit. He can move his feet and all this stuff, but he also is a little panicky when it gets in a certain situation. So I'm excited to see it. I think, like I said, I think that's the difference. I think if they can make Darnold the lesser version of himself, that is a huge advantage to the Rams. Seahawks are really good, and Darnold clearly was an upgrade over Geno Smith and what he's doing in Vegas right now. But I still think that's where the game lies, is if they can make life hard on Darnold, they're in a really good spot.
I agree. Make him see ghosts, make him uncomfortable, rely on your pass rush. I mean, it wasn't a great game for Jared Verse or Byron Young last week. I mean, Byron Young was pretty solid, but Jared Verse, I think, is due for a nice splashy game in a big setting, and we know he loves the bright lights. And on the flip side too, I think that really that's where the game comes down to for the Rams as well, because the Seahawks had 23 pressures against the Cardinals. That was the 9th most in any game this season. They also are second in sacks behind just the Broncos. And one of the great things about Matthew Stafford this year is he has been relatively clean. I mean, he stayed vertical for most of the season. And what makes this Seahawks pass rush really, really dangerous is you got a lot of guys. It's like you said, it's not just like Aaron Donald, right? There's multiple guys that can attack you. Leonard Williams, go fight on. USC, I'm trying to make up for it. Fight on. DeMarcus Lawrence, Byron Murphy, Nwosu. I mean, they got guys that can come at you from all angles. So that's going to be the biggest key, because we know that Stafford's been great against the blitz this year, but they don't really blitz that much, right? They just kind of get home with their front floor. I think that's going to be a massive, massive storyline and a key to this game as well.
Yeah, the Rams have given up the 4th fewest sacks in the league as a group. Their offensive line has been really, really good. But like you said, the Seahawks are the Spider-Man meme to the Rams, right? They're doing we're looking at you, you're looking at us. There's a lot of similarities right there. They've got a lot of guys that can get after Stafford. The difference is I think Stafford knows how to respond to that. I think that Stafford knows how to make a decision at the line of scrimmage to try to mitigate some of that. So I'm excited to see it. If Stafford gets just a little bit of time, we've seen what he's able to do. And plus, he's on one of the great heaters of his career, right? And I get it. You know, heaters come to an end. And all of a sudden, a guy that hasn't thrown an interception in weeks could have a day where he can't find the right color jersey. But it just feels like he is in a position in his head, physically, teammates, scheme, everything else, that he is deep, deep, deep into his bag. And I expect him to stay there again on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And heaters do end, but sometimes, I mean, a late career heater, you know, this Matthew Stafford almost reminds me of 2015 Carson Palmer, a great USC quarterback, right? I mean, Carson Palmer in 2015, he was leading the league in all kinds of offensive categories. Quarterbacks, what can you say? But coming up next, predictions, some more keys to this one. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
All right, the NFL season is underway, right? And honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans and cheering on your team. But the drag, and let's be honest about it, could be getting tickets and the hassle that comes along with that. You know, the queues that you got to lay, the login screens, the prices that go whoop, jump at checkout can be incredibly frustrating. That's why there's Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, it's easy, it's backed by the Gametime guarantee. You're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, and this is my favorite part by far, all fees are included. So the price you see, it's the price you pay. How many times have you gone to an app and said, okay, I like that seat, I like that ticket, the price I'm okay with. And then when you get to check, it's like, that's not even close to what we talked about. And it just jumps like crazy. That's not going to happen at Gametime. In fact, you can pull up Gametime and in just a couple of taps, you're going to see an amazing deal. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games for as low as $100. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL, Locked On NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, Travis, here in our third segment, one key I think we need to throw out there is it feels like on Monday's episode, we will be talking about the name Harrison Mevis. It feels like this is going to be a game where the thicker kicker is going to have his fingerprints on it one way or the other.
I hope the one way, right? Because I know I'm a broken record on this. The everydayers are going to be like, yeah, Trav, we get it. Playoff games come down to kicks. Winning the division is going to come down to a kick. Being at home instead of going to Green Bay or Philadelphia is going to come down to a kick. And I don't know if this guy can make kicks yet or not. We got to find out, right? He made his PATs, which is a great start. I'm not throwing cold water on that. It's an incredibly good start, 6 for 6. But you're right, Doug, that Harrison Mevis's name needs to be hey, the Rams needed a 52-yard field goal, and they got it, and the operation was clean, the snap was good, the hold was good, the blocking was good, and the ball split the uprights, and we're good to go. Until I see one of those, I'm going to be holding my breath because it's just like a little kicking PTSD from what we saw with Cardi. I'm glad they moved on. I don't know if it was his fault. I don't know if it was the long snapper's fault. I don't know if it was the line's fault. All I know is the kicks didn't go in. They did go in against the Niners, but I'm going to need to see a field goal with a little bit of pressure before I'm fully invested in the thicker kickers. Good start to be sure, but I'd like to see a kick under pressure.
Yeah, he's a completely unproven commodity. I think the best way to come out of this game, if you're the Rams, the dream scenario is the Seahawks and the rest of the league still haven't figured out a way to stop this new look Rams offense with the tight ends, with the 12-13 personnel. Devontae Adams gets a touchdown in the red zone. Puka Nacua eats. You got the two-headed monster with Blake Corum and Kyron Williams, and just the offense continues to hum. And if you get more than 30 points, you feel good about that, and you do just enough on defense. You hold them to 17, 20 points, you win like 34-20. That'd be the dream scenario if your kicker also hits some kicks as well. But this is just a game where, I mean, if you look at the advanced stuff, you look at the more surface level stuff, like this truly is a battle of two of the best teams in the NFL, offensively, defensively, balance. It's a big test though. McDonald and Darnold coming into SoFi versus McVay and Stafford. Like, this is a game that the Rams really, really should win. I expect them to win. And before I get anyone saying, oh, D-Mac, you predicted the Rams to win every single game this year, you're a homer. Guess what? If we didn't have a bad kicker, we'd be undefeated. So I'd be right. So if we lose one of those games where I feel like they should have won, maybe I'll change my tune a little bit. But this Rams team is just, like you said, on a heater as a group. They're the most important position. The guy's on a heater. And I think the defense is really the key in this one, obviously. But I got the Rams winning. I'm going to just go on a limb and say they score 31. And it's like a 31-20 game for the Rams.
Look, if the Rams score 31 points, they're going to win the game, right? That just feels like something that is above and beyond what Seattle is going to be able to do. I think what's exciting about this is whoever wins this game is going to be able to say, we have the really good win, right? Over the really good team with the good record, et cetera, et cetera. Whoever loses this game, I think it's going to be interesting too, because I think the rest of the NFL people that do what we do and talk about these teams and these games, it's going to be see, they finally played somebody good and they lost. They're not that good. So I think there's a lot of pressure in this game for both of these teams. Both of these teams have great records. Both of these teams don't have that one win that you go, that one right there proves that they're really, really good. Whoever wins is going to have one, but whoever loses is going to be right back into that. Yeah, they're all right, but I still need to see a little bit more. It's at home for the Rams, like we talked about. But the Rams defense has been excellent. The Rams offense is as good as we've ever seen it under Sean McVay. I think it's certainly close there. Maybe that prime Gurley season might be slightly better, but they've got all the pieces in their favor. So I expect them to win too. I don't know if I have it quite as wide of a gap as you do, but I do expect them to win the game. And who knows, maybe it comes down to thicker kicker having to kick something under pressure at the very end.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a game where I could see the Seahawks have to prove it to me, because they really haven't beaten that many great teams, right? No. And the Rams,
neither of the Rams, by the way.
Rams too, though. I mean, you can play that card against the Rams too. So this is going to be the ultimate kind of the barometer game, I think, for both teams. We pointed out earlier in the week that a loss for the Seahawks hurts them more than a loss for the Rams. But still, having said that, I mean, this would really continue to springboard this Rams team to a potential bye and really accomplishing goals that they weren't able to accomplish last year, and putting them in a much better position to make a deep run and win a Super Bowl. And that's what it's all about. So I got the Rams winning. Travis, I feel like he has the Rams winning, but closer. And on Monday, we'll celebrate. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. You can follow the People Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And if you're in the Claremont area, you can go see Travis and DeMarco live at Legends Attic. Miguel Rojas, World Series hero. Sure, he's a big Rams football fan for sure. But there's probably a Dolphins fan, Mr. 305 over there.
Yeah, right.
But that's going to do it, guys. See you on Monday. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams House.